I've played an active role in developing sample libraries 2 times in the past. The first was Fractured Strings with Spitfire Audio, which we created for our score on Frozen Planet 2. About 2 years later, we developed Grimm with Orchestral Tools, and that was made for the German blockbuster film Hagen, and more recently also the series War of the Kingdoms, which is streaming right now. Anyways, in 2025, last year, I thought of doing another one because I really learned to love this process of creating sounds, for other people to play around with, but also for me to play around with, and that was the motivation behind creating the third one. I genuinely wanted these sounds to exist for me to make music with. It was one of these situations where it was just like, I wish I had these. So, and the fix was simple. We just had to create it and make it, and that's what we set out to do with Spectre Strings. The inspiration for Spectre Strings came to me after reading a script for an upcoming movie, and although I shall not spoil the plot details to you, but the plot may or may not involve ghosts and specters of some kind. So in this video I thought it'd be a fun hang if we do a walkthrough together. I play some sounds and I maybe share some thoughts on how to use them. So shall we? One thing you should know about Spectre Strings is that every patch is named after a ghost, and the sound is always inspired by their backstories. So let me play a note of this first articulation, and you can read about the ghost on screen. Here it comes. So, celestial beings falling from the sky. Naturally, I had this idea to have the strings emulate this really long glide across so many octaves. And how this was achieved, perhaps, is quite interesting. So the first violins start on a really high note and drop down, glide down full octave, and they stay on that note then. And then the second violin does the same thing. They glide down full octave, passing it on to the violas. They do the same, and ultimately it reaches the cellos, who drop down an octave too. And the score here was brilliantly done by Bernhard Eder, who worked as an orchestrator on this project. At this point, a big shout out to you, Bernhard, over in Vienna, for making the score not only look beautiful, but converting the, some really crazy ideas into readable material for the musicians, right? So thank you for your great work. I want to try one more thing here with this articulation, putting a decapitator on. Maybe not on like full force, but as the note drops down, I'm gonna increase the drive, and not only that, I'm gonna play a much lower note. And what FFOSSO does, what the engine does, is it similar to what Kontakt does. When you tune something down, the sample gets stretched, and we sampled for this project 2 octaves. So 2 octaves are, what you hear is actually sampled, and then, but outside of that, on the extremes, the really high notes and the really low notes, they're getting time stretched. And really interesting stuff is happening when you do that. So let me play a lower note and increase the drive as we fall down from the sky. I wish I could take it to 11, but there's no 11. So, yeah, but I think that's quite cool. Similar with high notes on this articulation. You know, again, the word celestial. I think if I just play a couple notes like really high, you'll hear how weird that sounds. It becomes less of a musical thing, more like a sound designy thing. But you know, basically what I'm trying to tell you here is that with every articulation, look at the extremes and see what's happening there. I think you might get really lucky sound-wise sometimes. I had to kind of wrap my head around the concept of draining, and like it had to be something that's kind of ongoing and constant, like drain energy. And what came out to be is what I consider a really great track starter type of sound, and you'll hear in a second why. This is Moroi in action. Really gorgeous here with the onboard effects from FFOSSO. Actually, you can dial in space, give it echo. You have filter here. Looks really beautiful too. And all the articulations have a second layer. So if I turn up the mod wheel, and you see that as I turn the mod wheel, you see this cool visual representation within FFOSSO. So we're transitioning to the other layer. And for every patch, the two layers do something differently. So you kind of have to discover yourself. But in this one, I decided it would be cool to have this in major too, right? It's more like a more happy version. And I think you might know now why I said it's a great track starter, because this gives you an instant kind of mood and vibe. Something about this articulation that's cool is that you can also really easily, you know, hold down several notes and it will make sense harmonically. As I'm playing a G here, adding a D below, adding a D above, and another G below. And we have this beautiful texture here now. I was just playing around with a tremolator, you know, dialing that in. Gives you this pulsing atmosphere of strings, which is quite evocative. And I'm holding down the sustain pedal as I'm switching to my piano. And now we can play. Etc., etc. One more thing about this patch. When I was coming up with the idea for it, I couldn't quite put it to paper. I didn't know how you would notate a kind of... So the play is dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da 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 da. It's very random. And it's supposed to be like that, but how do you notate that? So I had a friend coming over, Kevin, who I practiced this with. And if you stay at the end of the video, you'll see an outtake of me having that idea and practicing it with Kevin. And that's the video we sent to Bernhard, who then made this out of it, the score. which again looks really beautifully and now like makes so much sense. That's the proper way to notate that. But yeah, stay until the end if you want to see that. And thank you, Kevin. All right, next up, number 3, we have Banshee. A banshee is a female spirit in Irish folklore whose wailing warns of an impending death, allowing preparations without causing it. And here is how it sounds. We recorded a soft layer for this, an octave higher, and also a louder, more intense layer. And you can see here in the score how it works is that half of the section plays harmonics, whereas the other half of the section plays normales, so no harmonics. Why is because the harmonics is what makes the sound spectre-ish and ghostly. But harmonics are not necessarily strong enough to make a real accent, so I still wanted it to be quite of a strong statement. So that's why half of them play the ghost-ish vibe, and the other half of the players play with a lot of pressure to achieve that down glide of an accent. This is again an articulation that's fun to play with chords. You get kind of like happy accidents with timing. Loud. So this can get quite intense. And again, playing it low, there's some really cool things happening with the timing, because the higher notes finish earlier than the lower notes. So if I play a lower chord cluster, this is what I'm getting. Play the loud layer. So I think that's really wailing like. Change the chord. Yeah, spooky. And if you want to give this sound a bit more grit, you can do that actually within FFOSSO. There's this little button here, and it takes you. I mean, there's just like you can do so much in this engine really, but what I'm after here is just some aura and some grit. So by adding that, lots of other stuff actually, you can give harmonics to the sound. Almost a little too much now, yeah. Who would have thought you can have too much aura, actually, yeah. I didn't know that. But yeah, that's number 3, Banshee, and I hope that in contrast to the other 2 articulations that I've showed you, this one is more of a punctual one, or for made to put an accent to the picture, whatever you're working on. I think can be quite a dramatic effect. All right, I got 2 more articulations to show you. Next up is number 4, Yurei, which is actually my favorite articulation of this whole set of 10. Actually, it's 10 in total. Yurei is a Japanese ghost floating without feet, haunting due to unresolved desires like revenge or love, and causing curses or disasters. So unresolved desires, I kind of, with coming up with the sound, I wanted to lean into that. And that kind of implies a feeling of longing, wanting. And so I came up with this like long kind of gap, like it's a perfect fifth. It sounds like this. And we did another layer the other way around, from the higher note to the lower note. And as you can imagine, the key to making this sound cool is also the kind of more chordal type approach of playing. Let me just play around with it a little and give you a little tour of what Yurei can do. And downward movement. Yeah, I love when it hits this really low note. And you bet I would have loved to have this when, you know, we did Frozen Planet too. It kind of lives in that sound world, doesn't it? And maybe that's why I resonate with it so much. It's just really a beautiful patch to play. And again, I can imagine this with a tremolator. I can imagine this actually with a forever reverb, forever delay. It's perfect for creating soundscapes. And I think it does really transport this feeling of longing, wanting, a desire someone has. So yeah, have as much fun as possible with that patch, Yurei. All right, I got one more articulation left to show you. And there's 5 more. If you want to check these out and you thought those ones were interesting and you want to, see what's left, then you just sign up to FFOSSO. It's actually free to sign up and make an account, and with the free subscription you're already getting, I think, 8 instruments that come with the free subscription. If you want to use Spectre Strings or some of the other packs, you'd have to subscribe, and I believe that's $9 a month currently. And I've been using FFOSSO too, and just scoring a movie like the last 2 months, I've used like many of their packs. It's really an interesting tool, and I thought it's quite interesting what Orchestral Tools made. So give it a tour yourself, but I'm sure there's some hidden gems in there that everyone right now isn't using yet. There's a lot of new stuff that I found that I'm like, wow, I'm kind of the first people who dive into that and make music with these tools. So that's exciting. And thank you for sticking around. I'll play the last articulation for you. It's called Nalusa Falaya, and we should actually read what that's all about. Nalusa Falaya is a shadowy humanoid creature with small eyes, long pointed ears, and a spindly form. It lurks in dense forests, frightening hunters by mimicking cries and sometimes pricking them to instill evil tendencies. Quite creepy. And here's how it sounds. So it has a down glide that again, it's a mixture of articulations. This time it's not harmonics, but it's sul ponticello, which means the players are just moving a bit up to the bridge when they play, and that gives it a very spectral kind of sound. You're hearing a lot of overtones here, right? This is the effect you get when you play sul ponticello. And we also captured this in a more soft version. which I think can be quite useful when scoring. Of course, you can play this in fifth or octaves. Octave. I will say that when recording Spectre Strings, we didn't have bass. We only had violins, viola, cello, and there was no bass. And on the other articulations, I'm not missing it so much. It doesn't really matter that there was no bass. But on this one, I'm not gonna lie, I wish I had a bass player. But you can, of course, mimic that. I'm just gonna quickly record this. I just loaded these low strings from Metropolis Arc, which is exactly what we need. I'm gonna try to hit the low C, and that should give us the low end we're after. Yep, that's where it's at. And to take things maybe even further with the low end, I want to just show you how that would sound doubled with a patch I came up with on the Prophet 6. I'm gonna again try to hit the bass note, but there's some serious low end coming. So make sure you're probably on headphones or speakers already. But check that out. I'm just realizing I might have to change the camera angle, but I'm very short on time, so I think you have to just watch my back for a little while. I apologize in advance, but here it comes. Yeah, low strings are great, but low synth is really hard to beat. Anyways, that was number 5. Check out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on FFOSSO.com. And I sincerely thank you for watching. If you have any questions about this or anything in general, or requests for more libraries, more sounds, please let me know. I know already that I'll be making a lot more because I want these tools to make music with again. So yeah, thank you. And here is the outtake with Kevin as promised. Hey Benny, here's the instruction for number 7. For the violins in this patch just hold a fifth and should be harmonics. Or maybe up here. Like a very ghostly, gentle sound, and then the lower sections will play this. An irregular tempo. The whole section can do this to create a texture. And for this patch, we also need a variation B, which is major, sounds like that. Can you try this an octave higher, actually? Etc.